the Texans going in to the Titans to play a game of football. CJ Stroud very likely out. We've seen a couple people recover from a concussion and become active after it, but you can kind of tell some concussions are, at least I feel like I can. Some of the concussions you see, you're like, that didn't really look like much. Feels like he just got like kind of popped abruptly, and more of a getting your bell run sort of situation. Not going to have any symptoms the next day. And then sometimes you see CJ Stroud get his head kind of bounced off the turf as your rookie superstar quarterback. Even though you are still in the hunt, still on the bubble, I don't see the Texans rushing him back. And even if they do, unfortunately, I think this offense is very, very different with Tank Dell out. I think we saw that even when CJ Stroud was healthy early on in the game. And I think we also saw him struggle in the rain a little bit. But that's kind of the trajectory of the team. Once Tank Dell started to come on, the offense started to come on. And now I'm thinking that was less of a coincidence and more of just a factor of like Tank Dell being really fucking good at football. I think is what we're kind of all learning over the course of the past couple of weeks. Titans coming off of a historic come from behind victory, down 14 points with less than 3 minutes to go on the clock. Will Levis, one of his best games of his career, 23 of 38, 327 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception in that record-breaking come from behind victory against the Dolphins. It will be a short week of rest for them. I am going to lay off of this one. The line has it Titans favored by 2.5 points. I have no leaning either way. James, what do you have?
Yeah, this is the battle for who gets to claim the Houston Oilers for their throwback jerseys. I'm very intrigued to watch this one. I actually think if Davis Mills starts, I don't think the Texans are going to fare too bad from that. He's kind of a question mark in my book. Didn't play a lot at Stanford due to the COVID season. Looked okay. Was a third-round pick. I'm kind of interested to see how he goes, but I think it's a coin flip. And so you know what that means. Taking the plus money, baby. And we're taking the Texans.
Taking that plus money with the Houston Texans. They've lost some really bad games this year with CJ Stroud. So I don't know. I don't know about that. That's the only thing keeping me off of it. Will Levis not been super impressive either, his whole body of work. But okay, taking the plus money. Ryan, what are you taking?
I am probably going to lean towards the Titans if CJ Stroud doesn't go. Davis Mills has been somebody I've watched for the last 2 years, and his problem is he sails balls constantly. His throws are high. He doesn't give his receivers a real opportunity to come down with those balls. So I don't see this offense really moving with him behind the helm. We also lost Nico Collins on the first play of that game against the Jets. So even with Tank Dell kind of impeding the offense, losing then your big target, not your speed target, but just your big body target, is just a huge blow for CJ Stroud. And not having Dalton Schultz, your security blanket, what are you really rolling out there? And so if Nico Collins still remains out, CJ Stroud remains out, and Dalton Schultz remains out, I don't see a path for the Texans, especially with the way their inability to run the football, to come away with a win in this game. So give me the Titans.
Yep, and that's the second fan pick against your team. I did it earlier with the Browns today, and you're doing it with the team you know very well. You know the roster, you know the way it's constructed, you know how important these players are, and you're seeing a cluster of them being potentially out. It can't make you feel good about the situation. Andrew, what do you think?
I like the Titans this week. Big revenge game.
Oh,
that was his mic drop. He's like, Titans, I'm out.
Andrew,
Titans,
you broke up, buddy.
Sorry, someone called me. That was weird. This never happened before. No, I like the Titans. I like the Titans this week. Davis Mills, a sorry ass player, and I'm taking Mike Vrabel and the Titans over that. Plus, Derrick Henry doesn't have a lot of huge games probably left in him at this point in his career, but something tells me he could go off this week.
The Yeti, it's time. He always peaks this time of year. Miles, what do you think?
I like the Titans here. I was impressed with Will Levis. I thought that, going against a team that is traditionally going to be much stronger than your second string quarterback, no Tank Dell, Houston Texans, that 2.5 doesn't seem like a lot to overcome this week.
Okay, so a lot of you guys are on the Titans. Yeah, and I don't blame you. I don't trust enough in Will Levis in that team, especially coming off an emotional win. Like, what else do they have to play for?
We watched that game and watch that punt return fumble and everything that happened there, where the Dolphins went up 27-13,
collapsed.
Yeah, and to actually come back and win that game, I was like, that's a lot to take on to next week.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, those final two drives look like Jalen Ramsey was one at the bank this spring. My God, did he disappear in those last two? That was
yeah, that's interesting too. Moving on, it's getting long here, so we're gonna move on to the 3 o'clock classes, 3 o'clock games rather. San Francisco 49ers at the Arizona Cardinals. The 49ers are the first team to mathematically clinch a playoff position. They are number 1 in the NFC. You know who else is number 1 in the NFC? Brock Purdy, because he leads the league in yards per attempt at 9.9. So every time he throws it, chances are he's going to get 9.9 yards. That's how efficient he has been. That's almost a whole first down. On the other hand, the Cardinals are coming off of a bye win against the Steelers before the bye. Kyler Murray has been really, really bad. It kind of looked like maybe he was trending in the right direction. He's not really looked great, and the Cardinals defense has also not really looked great, giving up 355 yards per game on average. As I was doing my notes, I actually didn't look at this line because I wanted to write down where I don't think I would take the Niners at. And I wrote down, I would not bet the Niners if they were minus 19.5 at Arizona. So this is going to have to be my best bet of the evening. I'm hammering the San Francisco 49ers. Last week, I supported the Niners. I recommended the Niners at 10.5, and that was my biggest spread I had recommended the negative side of for a team to cover. That hit. And I think when it closed, it actually closed at like 14. So depending on where you got it. But when I recommended it, it hit. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to recommend the Niners minus 13.5. And I would recommend betting that sooner than later because I think that's going to get eaten up pretty quickly if I can predict these sort of things. James, what do you think?
Are we just leaving out the fact that there's minus 1,000 money line here? That's value, baby. No, I would love to see what would happen to Jamie if I officially take that line. I might get booted out of this podcast live.
Never invited back.
I can't touch anything over 10. So I'm laying off it, but I do agree with you, Jamie. That's still probably not enough. It should be a much larger spread.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what have we seen this Niners team do to good teams lately? They're healthy. They're ready to go. And I don't think they're in for an emotional letdown at Arizona. That's just kind of what I'm feeling from this team. They also feel, I think that because I think they feel disrespected. I think they know they have an MVP in Brock Purdy, and everyone's just like, everyone else around him is so good, it doesn't matter. I think the rest of the team is like, yeah, but like, did you see the team before Brock Purdy was quarterback? Because it didn't look like this, right? So I think they're really disrespected, and I think they're highly motivated for this upcoming game. But anyways, whose turn is it? I forgot where we are. Ryan Perrio's turn. What do you think about this game, Ryan?
Take the Niners. Take the Niners and run. I don't see the Arizona Cardinals trying to do anything they're at this point they're looking at draft capital, who is going to be available at their picks. Their season's kind of not gone the way they wanted because it's either one, they could have tanked all season and gotten the number 1 overall pick, but they didn't do that. And then they thought maybe we can sneak in the playoffs. They couldn't do that. And so now they're kind of in no man's land of drafting. Like you're just out of the range of a top tier franchise altering player. And now you've got nothing Except, you know, take the Niners. They're gonna win. They're gonna win handily. I don't know if it'll go to the over. I think it'll be a 30-10. Maybe if Arizona scores a touchdown.
Yeah, maybe Kyler looks a little bit better, or maybe he just throws like 3 pick sixes, and that'll be that too. Andrew, what do you think on this game?
Kyler Murray at home off a bye week, coming off a big win against Pittsburgh. I'm not touching this shit. I'm not touching this. This is a stay away from me, right? This is that game where, knowing my luck, I'm like, all right, I need CMC to drop in 2 touchdowns. I got Debo on my fantasy team, and I only win by 12 because James Conner falls in the end zone. Like, you know, a minute left. I'm staying away from this game.
Brilliant. Miles?
I don't like the 13.5 for Arizona, so I'm with you on Jamie. You should definitely be betting the 49ers on this. But I will say that if that number grows, if it gets closer to like 17, I could see the San Francisco 49ers getting up by like 10, 12, 14 points, somewhere in that range, and then just kind of resting their starters, laying off the gas, and realizing it's the Arizona Cardinals. Our defense has this. Why would we're already in the playoffs. Why would we like just put the hammer down? I know you mentioned pride, somebody wanting to defend that Brock Purdy MVP, but I think this San Francisco team is looking at a bigger picture than an individual accolade. And for that reason, keep an eye for that number to grow. And then maybe you take the Arizona Cardinals covering a spread of in the 15-17 neighborhood. But this is obviously going to be a hand-me game to the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I would think twice. I love 13. That's why it's my best bet of the week. But it also does benefit you for an MVP run when you have several videos of you on the bench because your team is winning by so much that you got benched at the end of the third quarter. Like, that's a good look for your MVP run too. And yeah, I agree that they could have a little bit of a backdoor cover, especially with Kyler Murray and Michael Wilson, who's, you know, looked about as good as JSN has looked this season, which, I mean, isn't saying much, but if you compare the two preseason, a lot of people have a lot different opinions on those two players. Moving on to the 3:00 game here, the Commanders and the Rams. I saw today that Brian Robinson is expected to be back to practice coming off of a bye. That was a little bit surprising to me. I love Brian Robinson. Doesn't matter at all for gambling purposes, but if you do have him in fantasy football, he is another guy who could come off of this hamstring injury quicker than you expect and kind of save the day in your playoffs, because he's been absolutely incredible so far this fantasy football season and this real life season. The Commanders are 14th in the NFC. Somehow they're still mathematically able to make the playoffs. The Rams are on the bubble. They're an 8 seed right now. They're on the outside looking in. 7 seed makes it. 8 seed goes home. In the NFC, Stafford is averaging 7.3 yards per attempt. The wins and losses when he is in didn't really match up early in the season. After the thumb injury, he's actually kind of been on a little bit of a tear. I don't have a side to this game, but I do have a future recommendation on this game. The Rams are 6.5-point favorites against the Commanders, which I feel is just about right. But I also feel there's a lot of money to be made on this future bet. The Rams plus 190 to make the playoffs. There is another one I found that was a little bit more spicy, but I assume that was more like a short-term promotion. I saw it at 290. 190 is readily available for the Rams. The Rams are in the NFC outside looking in ahead of them for their future games. They have the Commanders, Saints, Giants, and 49ers. And you think, oh, 49ers, that's a loss to the Rams. They're already clinched their playoff position. They might have already clinched the 1 seed at that point. They might be benching their starters for this game. The Vikings, who are currently in the 7 spot, what they're looking ahead of is the Bengals and Jake Browning, who's been pretty decent, the Lions, the Packers, and the Lions again. So I would expect the Rams to take the Vikings position in the NFC. So I'm going to recommend the 190 plus money for the Rams to make the playoffs this season. I don't have any other thoughts on this game other than that. James, what are your thoughts?
Love the futures bet there. Fantastic. Big fan of that.
Thank you.
If I had to lean, I'd lean the Commanders' money line. But, not a lot of thoughts on this game. Not very interested in this game. My only thought is Brian Robinson is inhuman. That man can bounce back from anything, including being shot. At this point, we need to have like the FBI or the CSI or somebody needs to look at him and figure out what in his tissue is different than anyone else. Because I need some of that. I need
harvest
whatever he has. Yeah, exactly. I'll be like that guy who's having his own child's blood pumped into him so he can be young. That'll be a great idea. All I have to do is just sell Venmo for a couple $100 million, and I can afford to go into that kind of saving medical research. So,
yes,
there you go. No bet, but some fun bands.
Ryan Perio?
Give me the over. I think that the Rams have been absolutely gangbusters. They took the Ravens to OT with 37 points, and the Redskins are no slouch in the point scoring department either when they get rolling. So I feel like that over line could be easily 49's easily attainable by these two teams.
Wow.
That's the only thing that really entices me. But this is going to be kind of a shootout, a surprising shootout that the Rams are, again, playing for that playoff spot. Washington basically Sam Howell's going to sling it around the football field, whether it goes to an offensive player or defensive player is anybody's guess. But I could definitely see them going over 50.
Andrew?
I actually like the Rams this week. The Commanders feel like they're on the verge of giving up. Ron Rivera, he's probably working from home. He's working remote for sure. They cleaned out his office. So let's just take the points because they're going to score plenty more than the Commanders will. So
okay, taking the Rams there, and then Miles, what are you taking?
An absolute no-brainer on the Rams on this game, guys. I've been very strongly opinionated that the Washington Commanders absolutely suck ass. I don't know what you guys have seen in them at any point during the season. I don't think they've won since like week 8 or 9. Matthew Stafford is back. He's got weapons. He's got a statement to prove himself as an NFL quarterback. This is going to be an easy win for the Rams. They're going to cover that 7-point margin and then some. I don't love the over just because I don't think that the Rams can do it by themselves, and the Washington Commanders are not going to help. So I'm going to say the LA Rams -6.5.
I love it. Another no-brainer bet. But that's your third no-brainer of the night. We are all slinging out bets. We all love this slate. And why wouldn't we? This has been a good one to cover so far. The Dallas Cowboys are going to be taking on the Buffalo Bills. The game will be in Buffalo, and the Cowboys recently beat the Eagles, becoming the 2 seed in the NFC after taking out the Eagles, which I did recommend. We had a little bit of banter in between us last week. The Cowboys are first in points per game, 32.4 points per game. Bills are currently the 11 seed in the AFC, but Vegas, in that same odds to make the playoffs, are 1+115 are the best odds you can get on them. So almost even money, basically a coin flip for them to make the playoffs this season. They are 5th in the NFL in points per game. And the over-under is kind of predicting that. We're seeing 50 for the over-under, and the Bills are 2-point favorites at home. James, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, luckily for the Dallas Cowboys, Sunday is actually the warmest day of the week in Buffalo. That's going to be a high of 46, so that helps us out a little bit here. Micah Parsons has said a lot of things about how this defense can figure people out and that you should look at the Niners tape. This is their chance to prove it. They need to show up, and I think they will. So I think the wrong team is favored in this situation. I'm definitely taking the Cowboys plus money line here. Micah Parsons just needs to back up what he says on his podcast, or he needs to shut it off. Those are my 2 opinions.
Ryan Perio?
I agree with James. I don't understand why the Cowboys aren't favored. I understand that they beat the Kansas City Chiefs, but that was on a penalty that the Chiefs caused. It wasn't by any Buffalo Magic stand. I think the Cowboys money line, if it's plus 110 right now, jump on it before that sways and they become the favored. It's going to be, and it's, I think 50 point, again, take the over as well, because I think it's definitely going to be a shootout. I don't see these teams basically playing a 13-10 game.
Yeah, as somebody who was on an island backing the Cowboys last week, I couldn't tell you why I'm not. I guess I just believe in the Beals and Josh Allen. I'm a big Beals guy, so I think that's why I'm kind of off them right now. Andrew, what are you on?
Lock of the week, another lock of the week, Dallas Cowboys.
Wow.
I love them against the Bills. Also, in our fantasy league, I'm starting to Ron Bland. He's getting his NFL record 6th touchdown this week.
Go.
Put it down. It's happening. Josh Allen's going to get pressure from Parsons. He's going to lob a ball to Gabe. I don't know where the ball is. Davis. Bland's going to grab it, take it to the house. He'll step on Diggs. He don't play hard when he has to play defense. I'm telling you, the Cowboys win big. Because unlike I'm not even gonna make the 9/11 joke. Okay, let's go Cowboys.
Oh my God! Thank you for not making that, Miles Francis. What are your thoughts?
I'm disappointed. I wanted to hear the 9/11 joke personally. If this is one of those games where if this were at Dallas, it would be an easy no-brainer in my mind with the way that Dak's been playing at home. Even with James pointing out the lovely 46-degree weather that Buffalo will be experiencing here in December, I still think that Dallas is the edge. I like the money line for them. It's a lean, not a strong recommendation.
Okay, so that's a lean out of Miles. Moving on to the next one, the Baltimore Ravens. We're getting into Sunday night football. The Baltimore Ravens are going over to play the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Ravens have the 1 seed in the AFC. They're not clinched the playoffs yet. They are without Mark Andrews. They recently won on a walk-off overtime punt against the Rams last week, and they are on their own 3-game win streak. The Jags are currently first in the AFC South, still after losing to the Browns. Jags are able to score despite losing Christian Kirk in the past couple of games. I think this is a big letdown game for the Ravens. It feels like a Jags team that the media is kind of talking like they're not performing well. They've done great. They've won games. So for that reason, I'm taking Jags money line. I'm taking Jags plus 3.5. Feels like James is right there with me. James, where are you?
Yeah, this one could actually end up being an interesting game. It's supposed to be very thunderstorm and rainy, which I think could be very interesting. Probably slows down Lamar. I think he even gives Jacksonville a little bit edge because there's no way he can hit a deep ball, and if Mark Andrews not there short, like. The only thing I will predict, and my script will tell you this, is there will be a weather delay due to lightning at some point in the first quarter, and that also really favors the home team because they get the far better facilities to get warm again. Also very key. So I am definitely with you on the Jaguars money line. I got the weather script for this one.
James, is your inside NFL source the Lord? How in the hell could you possibly predict that?
He's got a.
Hey, they have the ability to make electricity. They have machines that create it. They fly the Goodyear blimp up there. They put the machine on it, and the lightning starts coming down. Let me tell you, everything's rigged in the NFL. Everything.
He has Thor's phone number. He's been texting him all afternoon. I'm also feeling like this is like, you know how teams can kind of manage after they lose a superstar for a couple of weeks, and then teams start to like figure out their pivot, or their luck kind of just runs out. And I feel like that's what we're going to see here with Mark Andrews in a game that the Jags absolutely have to have, in a game that the Ravens honestly really don't have to have. Ryan Perry, where are your thoughts on this one?
I think if the league is rigged, it's going to be Jackson. It's not going to be Jacksonville. It's going to be Baltimore. I think the Baltimore's running game is just going to be too much. Trevor Lawrence threw 3 interceptions against Cleveland last week, playing a better defense this week in Baltimore. I don't see Jacksonville having that kind of bounce back where they can be the top seed in the AFC. I think Baltimore basically gets a 10-point lead and runs and hides with it. And that's the game.
Brilliant. Going on to Mr. Andrew. What do you think?
I call this my pee-pee sheets game of the week from Lamar Jackson. If you ever stayed at a shitty hotel, always check the bed because you could end up with pee-pee sheets because Lamar Jackson slept in that bed the night before. I'm telling you, this is a classic letdown game from this guy. I'm expecting maybe 150 yards, no passing touchdowns, and like 40 rushing yards. This game's going to be a real close, low-scoring game. I'm taking Jaguars. I'm taking the points. They'd probably win. They'll probably just straight up win this game, honestly. To set up a Baltimore-Miami matchup, I believe, is next week, which will determine whoever wins the number 1 seed in the AFC. So that'd be a perfect time for that.
So they could be looking ahead, too. That's a good job out of you, Andrew. Wow. Okay, Miles, what do you think?
I don't really love anything on this game. If I had to lean anywhere, I would lean for the money line on the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Brilliant. Moving on to the final game here. The Philadelphia Eagles are taking on the Seattle Seahawks. The game is in Seattle. That'll be a long flight there for the Eagles, but I don't think that affects guys nearly as much as it used to in the NFL. The Eagles are getting a little bit of extra rest, and the Seahawks are getting a little bit of extra rest coming off of a bit of a gauntlet here. For the Eagles side of things, they recently ran through the Cowboys, Chiefs, Bills, 49ers, and then Cowboys again. The Eagles are on a 2-game losing streak, and they are currently the 5 seed in the NFC after dropping to the Cowboys last week. The Seahawks are on the bubble. They are the 9 seed in the NFC. Seahawks have beat the Commanders by 3 and PJ Walker by 4 in their last 7 games, and that's it. They did win against the Cardinals in the game before. They beat the Browns and PJ Walker by 10 points, and that was Josh Dobbs who they beat on that team. Equally fatigued as the Eagles, you could say, coming off of 49ers, Cowboys, 49ers. Not an easy gauntlet to run on their behalf either. I think the Eagles are really being disrespected here. I know I've said that before on this channel when I thought they were disrespected against the Niners. I think this is a prime time, little bit of extra rest. Let's get right. They're still healthy on the Eagles side of the ball, offensive line-wise, which is obviously really, really important. And I just think the Eagles come out and kind of kick the piss out of the Seattle Seahawks here on Monday night. So I'm going to take the Eagles -4 in this one. James, what do you think?
I've been texting with the Lord, and I have information on this game.
Here we go.
Geno Smith will be playing this game. I think the line does not account for that right now. So I have taken the Seahawks money line, as I do think that they come down in value once Geno Smith is officially announced to start.
Okay. That's interesting. I would disagree with you. I think this line indicates that Geno is playing. I would expect him to play as well, but I don't know if this line accounts for that. So that's good insight out of you, Mr. James. Feels like you're a little bit more in tune with the gambling lines than I am. So I would have to guess that you're right. But I guess we'll see, Ryan.
There's also the Kenneth Walker being day-to-day. You got a lot of players on the Seahawks that I think are slightly questionable. I think Geno comes in, Kenneth Walker 100% comes in. I don't think it jumps away much. I think it's 10 points, something like that. But those 10 points are very significant in this matchup to me, in my opinion. I think 160 is the fair line, and I will take the extra 10 points to Seahawks.
Okay, and I respect it. Ryan Perry, where are you at?
I believe this is going to be an Eagles win. I think Nick Sirianni basically closed the door on his coach's office last week, and he ripped into some people. And Officer Dom's back. I think Officer Dom had some things to say about that game last week. I think if he was there, he would have gotten Micah Parsons ejected for fighting. I just think the Eagles are. There's too much talent for them to let them play this lackadaisical. they really just were a letdown this Sunday night with 3 fumbles of their own making. Like it wasn't like the Cowboys just stopped them. They stopped themselves in some of those plays. Like they had first downs and they just put the ball on the turf, and you can't do that against a good team. I think this team just gets the coaching staff takes the players to the woodshed. They rally and they come out against Seattle and say, this is the Philadelphia team we can be. Yeah, and I think they played their best game of the year.
I don't think we have a report on what uniforms they're wearing. They were just in Cali green, right? So I don't think they're going to get a Cali green game here for the primetime game. It looked horrible with the Seahawks neon green anyway, so kind of like that decision.
I would have loved to see the Seahawk Eagle throwbacks.
Ooh, now we're talking. Yeah. Andrew, what are you talking about, buddy?
As a Cowboys fan, I would love for the Seahawks to win, but I mean, Jalen Hurts, this feels like a game where him and AJ Brown get right. And unfortunately, the Seahawks will be the victim of a get right game. So I like the Eagles, honestly.
Miles?
I said I was going to take it easy on the recommendations on this week, and I lied. This is my 5th no-brainer of the night. The Philadelphia Eagles are absolutely going to crush the Seahawks. I agree with most of what all of you said, except for James and the Lord, which tracks with me. So moving forward, I would put a lot of money on the Philadelphia Eagles, showing that they are still a dominant force in this league.
Yeah, so a lot of us are on the Eagles there. And that is it for this episode. Please subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. My name is Jamie Jakes. Please leave a like as well. Leave a comment if you disagree with us, and we'll have a good little fun conversation about it in the comments section. You can follow me at JAMJKS on X. James is not a public figure. You are an NFL insider. What do you have to say to the audience?
Well, I did want to say earlier in the show, we mentioned, the Tony DeVito, who was great at Syracuse. The head coach of Syracuse is Brett Bielema. And my favorite quote from Brett Bielema of all time is when he joined the University of Arkansas. He said, "If you look at my Big Ten record and compare it to Nick Saban's, there is no question who will be running this league." And he proceeded to get fired 3 years later. So the tidbit to everyone at home is don't get too big for your britches. Know who you are and stay in your lane and find yourself a Tommy DeVito who can control your team and help you win 8 games.
Brilliantly said, Mr. James, at Ryan Perio on all social media platforms. Thank you for being on. What do you have to tell the audience?
You can catch me at the Addison Improv January 9th. I'll be headlining a Ryan Perio and Friends at the Addison Improv with Mallory Davis, Sri Raj, Zach Webb, and Peyton Payne.
Hell yeah. Great lineup. I would definitely recommend going and checking that out if you are in the DFW area. Mr. Andrew, also not a public figure, thank you for being on as always. What do you have to tell the audience?
I know a lot of you guys are waiting around for the Parlay Pup to make an appearance and give his 5 best picks of the week, but he's currently recuperating from getting neutered this morning. So he promises he will be back next week with 5 hot picks, the Parlay Pup.
So subscribe, ring the bell so you're notified when we go live and when we release these episodes, usually on Tuesday night. At Mr. Most Days Off, Miles Francis on all social media platforms. Thank you for being on. What do you have to tell the audience?
Well, at first it sounds like Andrew's dog has as much nuts as Daniel Jones does, so that's cool. But no, you can follow me everywhere at Mr. Most Days Off. I've got comedy shows coming up as early as this weekend and next week with Jamie Jakes. And other than that, just thoughts and prayers that all of your bets go well this week.
Hell yeah. Thank you guys, and good night.